a little bit wider. Don't know if his plans are to get back onto the freeway or not, and I'm also wondering where the black and whites are. I know that there is a helicopter above it still making calls. The car just made a turn right there. Oh, you can see it. We're picking up Pico right now. So now we're going to be heading westbound on Pico Boulevard. There was some moments on that 110 freeway where we're keeping an eye on it. High speeds, probably touching about 90, maybe 80 miles an hour. But when I say those numbers, you have to remember, in traffic, this vehicle making its own lane the entire time, doing it once again, now going into oncoming traffic. There was a pedestrian in the road, in that walkway, clear from that vehicle, but running red lights, and it basically, as you're seeing it right now, just taking any opportunity to get through or by somebody as they're continuing on. Now, Baroxia, I'm sure you guys, people at home, I'm sure we all see it, some damage on that front of that vehicle. Not sure if that's from the pursuit or before the pursuit, but definitely this car has some damage on the front end, but that driver continues to drive extremely reckless, wrong side of the road, high speeds, putting a lot of the public in danger.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously breaking all kinds of rules and laws along the way, ignoring those lights, making his or her own lane. What else do we know about the vehicle, aside from the fact we do see that front end damage? We're uncertain when that happened. The vehicle, as far as being stolen, we don't have that information, and we also don't know how many people are inside of that vehicle. Am I right?
No, I haven't heard anything. I mean, clearly there is the driver. I do know it's a Ford. I believe it's a Ford Fusion. I don't quote me on that. That's not really my type of vehicle to keep an eye on. But this one, I can tell you, moving along very, very quickly out here. We're making our way in the Harvard Heights area. Just think Adams, Jefferson area right in there. And you know what? I can see that the vehicle's slowing down a little bit. It looks like we're making a turn. Now, this is actually maybe a good thing. Maybe they're making their way back over to the 10 freeway northbound on Vermont. We're going to be heading into Koreatown if he keeps up this direction, and I venture to say we're going to start seeing some traffic out there. That was the helicopter that I was talking about. Actually went right by the police station. That was what I was going wide for. I was just kind of curious. I'm like, isn't there a police station right there? Isn't that Olympic? Anyways, just went right by it. The sheriff's overhead. There was a black and white out there. They are keeping an eye on it, but this is one of those things. They have to kind of be invited to the dance. And then on top of that, their bosses have to say, or the sergeants have to say, yeah, we can engage into this pursuit. Right now, though, I believe that they're more in a tracking mode. The sheriff's department, their helicopter clearly above it. We're clearly above it as well. So they have an eye on it, and they know where this vehicle is. Now, I've said it in the past, when these things come to an end, hopefully we'll see some magical appearance of some law enforcement. Look at that. That motorcyclist, probably not too happy about that. Yeah, I would have been a little grumpy about that too. And of course, every time we go through these intersections, I'm always looking for pedestrians. It looks like this is a destination, making our way northbound now. Oh, there he goes. And these are smaller streets. So I kind of wonder if he's going someplace where he knows where maybe he can park the car, get out and run. But again, the tighter roads doesn't mean this is coming to an end. Tighter roads means that this is going to be more difficult to follow. We're going to have to move Skyfox over to the right a little bit because I am going to lose him, and especially if he makes a turn on one of the major streets out here.
We often talk about that with pursuits. We see some of these suspects, if they have the opportunity, going to areas or neighborhoods they're familiar with. Obviously, at this point, it's speculation if that's what's going on here, but that does happen often and from time to time. Stu, for those who don't watch frequently, we cover so many pursuits, but often we will use the phrase tracking mode, and they're going to track the vehicle at this point. Let our viewers know what that means and when that is used.
Well, tracking mode is basically all the ground units. It looks like we're coming to a stop. It looks like he picked an area right here. I don't know what this is all about. Doors open and out and running. It looks like he's going right into an apartment building, which is good or bad. Now, LAPD, hopefully they are nearby. I know the sheriff's department, their helicopter definitely was overhead, just kind of left the vehicle there. I'm going to keep an eye on that courtyard. That's the only spot that I really can take a peek at. I'm going to look at that front entrance way as well, but definitely looks like he ran into this apartment building out here, clearly on New Hampshire Avenue. And again, we'll get you an exact address, but right now, law enforcement not here. And that suspect basically ran into 425 New Hampshire. I don't know if this is a location that he knows somebody. If that vehicle is registered to him, I can almost guarantee you law enforcement's going to be knocking on his door eventually. But right now, car sitting out on the roadway, suspect ran into the apartment building, and we'll see. Possibly we're going to get some 911 calls. And there is the sheriff's helicopter. And Araxia, to answer the question that you asked so long ago, tracking mode is where they basically discontinue the vehicles on the ground, and they just let the helicopter track it. It has worked in the past, especially when there's reckless driving. They'll basically start driving a little bit more calm. In this case, we didn't see anything like that. That vehicle continued to make those fast moves out there and drove very reckless. But right now, though, that suspect inside one of these apartment buildings, 425. I'm looking for the car once again. I shouldn't have followed the helicopter, but at any rate, the pursuit portion of this now over.
Well, you know, with tracking mode, they do that because they don't want to endanger the public. As you said, sometimes you have a busy area, there's pedestrians around or just cars, and obviously the people on the road have no idea what's going on. So they do that in order to not escalate the situation. In this case, though, because they were in tracking mode, it looks like it gave this individual an opportunity to somewhat get a head start in their escape plan. So as we can see, that car down below, that was the suspect's vehicle, and it appears as though he was the only person in that vehicle. And at this time, it looks like officers have arrived. You see deputies down below, and they're going into that parking garage. But that's a big building, and this person could be pretty much anywhere, especially if it's an area they're familiar with. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely. And it looks like, and I seem to agree with that, is that he ran in through the garage door. I thought for a second, though, he went through that front door. But when he ran out, now I'm kind of thinking the other way, too. I don't think he went into the underground parking. I'm not 100% on that. I can tell you, though, California Highway Patrol now here on scene, and they are going to be making that effort to take that suspect into custody. They definitely have the vehicle. There is no doubt about that. We haven't heard anything about it being stolen, so if it is registered, the registered owner is going to have to make some kind of effort to pick that vehicle back up. That might be the time they have a discussion with the driver of that car. And again, though, they didn't give this up, so that makes me think that this, whatever that criminal threat was a crime that they really wanted to take this person into custody. Because a lot of times lately, we see these pursuits, they're much shorter now, as they look at the situation, they weigh the public safety, and then they back off. But in this case, they kept with it, and then they actually were calling for 2 helicopters at one point. One of them needed fuel, so it had to go in, but they didn't want to let it go. So whatever that driver was wanted for is something pretty serious.
So just for people who weren't following this before, we do have some video of this individual when he was on the road. Again, this was a pursuit on the 110 freeway near downtown LA. It began in Alhambra, though, and the suspect was wanted for a criminal threat. That is all we knew at that time, and so far that is all we know. There you see the vehicle on the right side of your screen. This is just a few minutes before the scene you're seeing right now live on the left side of your screen, which is the car has come to a stop and that individual has gone inside of that building. But there on the freeway, you could see, high speed. Once that person got off the freeway, that's when he became a bit more reckless, creating his own lane, essentially going against traffic. Even the way he came and stopped there in front of this building, he was facing the opposite side of traffic as well. So there you have the live feed on the left. On the right, you have what was happening during the pursuit moments ago. One thing I keep thinking about is once inside of this building, this person can change clothes, change their appearance, whether he knows someone inside. Yep. Or is hiding somewhere because they know the building well. It could take a while before we get any kind of a resolution here.
Definitely, and those officers, they made their way into that parking garage. I saw them trying to open that gate. There's probably a way to disable the actual mechanism, but all those officers that made their way in there, if somebody doesn't allow them, a lot of times the parking garages are secure in both ways, meaning they probably can't even get into the apartment building. They probably need a key or some kind of fob to get into the stairwells to get out of the parking garage. So right now you've got officers down in, most of them made their way. There you go again. He's trying to open that gate. blunt force, brute force, very brute. At least they're getting that gate open so they can get out. But clearly they have weapons drawn, all of them at one point. And so, like, again, I have to wonder what that criminal threat was, what that person is really wanted for. The officers now making their way out. I know one of the officers went by himself into the building. Again, I wish I had a little bit more information. If we knew that this vehicle was registered there, then at least we would have information on the apartment number. I'm venturing to say that it is not, because of the fact that these officers aren't making their way into the apartment building. But right now, a search for a very dangerous suspect after a pursuit came to an end out here in Koreatown.
Well, Stu, thank you, and to Sky Fox, to the crew up there, for following this pursuit. At this point, we're just going to end it right here. We'll